Are you tired of feeling busy but never truly productive? Imagine transforming your days into a series of powerful, focused actions that actually move you closer to your goals. In this series, you'll discover practical strategies to master your energy, build habits that stick, and design your life around what truly matters. Each insight is actionable, tested, and designed to create real results, not just temporary motivation. Stick with us, and you'll learn how to turn daily routines into unstoppable momentum. Subscribe now and start shaping a life of purpose, clarity, and extraordinary results. Number 1. Clarify goals. Eliminate distractions. Clarity is the beginning of mastery. When purpose is foggy, effort scatters like sand in wind, busy, noisy, and ultimately ineffective. A productive life does not come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters repeatedly, with steady attention. The first pillar of a productive life is to clarify what matters and to remove everything that steals attention. This is not a one-time exercise. It is an ongoing discipline that trains the mind to see clearly and the will to act decisively. Start by answering 3 hard questions on paper. First, what outcome would change your life if it were true in 90 days? Pick one measurable result: finish a project, gain a skill, ship a product, restore a relationship. Second, why does that outcome matter more than anything else right now? Connect the outcome to deeper values: freedom, competence, service, legacy. Third, what will you stop doing to make room for that outcome? A goal without subtraction is a wish. Writing these answers forces the mind out of vague hope and into deliberate choice. Turn the outcome into a crisp, observable statement. Avoid fuzzy goals like get better or be productive. Use specific language. Finish the first draft of a 40,000-word book in 90 days. Run a 10K in under 55 minutes by March 1. Create and launch an online course that enrolls 100 students in 3 months. Specificity creates a clear target for your attention. It also reveals the true work, the steps, the practices, the time investments. When the target is clear, decision-making becomes easy. Actions either move you toward the target or they do not. Break the target into daily behaviors. A 90-day result is the sum of consistent, repeatable actions. Decide on a handful of keystone behaviors, the 2 to 4 daily actions that almost guarantee progress. For a writing goal, those might be: write 1,000 words every weekday morning, edit 300 words on Saturdays, outline 1 chapter every Sunday. For fitness, run 4 times a week, strength train twice, log meals daily. Put these behaviors into a simple tracker, paper, app, or a calendar, and mark completion each day. Micro habits compound. The visible chain of check marks creates momentum and accountability. Build an intentional environment to protect those behaviors. Humans follow cues. If the environment signals distraction, the brain defaults to what is easiest. Remove cues for the unwanted. Move the phone to another room during work blocks. Log out of social media on weekdays. Unsubscribe from email lists that throw noise into the morning. Add cues for the wanted. Place a glass of water and a notebook next to the chair used for deep work. Keep running shoes by the door. Set a dedicated playlist that signals the start of focused work. Small physical changes reduce friction and align your surroundings with your priorities. Perform a distraction audit for 3 days. Track every time attention breaks, the website visited, the notification, the impulse, the length of the break. Record the trigger and the emotional state: boredom, anxiety, avoidance. This creates data. Patterns emerge: late afternoon doom scrolling, checking messages first thing in the morning, jumping on every new idea. With this evidence, design rules to intercept these traps. Rules are the armor of discipline. Examples: no social media before noon, check email only 3 times per day, phone on airplane mode during the first 2 hours of work. Rules simplify decision-making. They remove the need to rely on willpower at the moment of temptation. Use time blocking as a weapon against scattered attention. Reserve long, uninterrupted blocks for high-leverage tasks. The brain needs time to warm into depth. Short bursts rarely produce meaningful results. Schedule a morning block of at least 90 minutes for your most important work, the task that moves the needle, and guard it. Write the block into the calendar as an immovable appointment with yourself, not as maybe time. Protect this sacred space by informing colleagues and family, setting a status message, closing the door, or using noise-canceling headphones. Treat interruptions as expensive and avoidable. When unavoidable, reschedule the block immediately. Adopt a clear decision rule for new opportunities. Opportunity cost is the quiet thief of productivity. Before saying yes to a new project, ask, does this align with the 90-day outcome or the keystone behaviors? If the answer is no, decline or defer. Use a simple triage. Yes, not now. Not now means file the idea in a someday list with a single-line reason why it might matter in future. This protects focus while preserving creative freedom. The discipline of saying no is not cruelty. It is fidelity to what matters. Digital hygiene must be ruthless. Notifications are tiny, frequent violence against attention. Turn off non-essential notifications. Configure Do Not Disturb during work blocks. Use website blocking tools for obvious traps and set time limits where needed. Empty the phone of apps that serve no purpose beyond snatching attention. Replace passive scrolling with deliberate inputs. A single news source read once in the evening, an hour for curated learning weekly, and a weekly email triage. The goal is to transform the device from a siren into a tool that serves your aims. Create rituals that prime the mind for focus. Rituals are short sequences that communicate to the body and brain that it is time to shift states. A ritual could be making tea, taking 3 steady breaths, opening the notebook and reading the previous day's last paragraph. Another could be wearing a particular sweater for deep work sessions or staring at the same object for 15 seconds to settle distraction. Consistent rituals reduce the cognitive cost of starting and aid habit formation. They are the quiet scaffolding of discipline. Use the 5-minute rule to beat small distractions. If a tempting interruption will take less than 5 minutes and is necessary, handle it immediately. Otherwise, schedule it. This prevents a cascade of tiny tasks from eroding a protected block of attention. Pair the 5-minute rule with a capture system, a single list or note where all non-urgent ideas, tasks, or follow-ups are stored. Capture frees working memory. When TNEMP is interrupted by an idea, jot it, return to the task, and trust the capture. This reduces anxiety and preserves momentum. Practice focused breathing and short resets. The body and the mind are allied. When attention drifts, a 1-minute breathing reset, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6, helps reorient. Walk for 5 minutes between blocks to refresh the brain and recalibrate posture. Movement restores alertness and reduces the temptation to click into low-effort distractions. The best decisions are made in embodied calm, not in jittery reactivity. Measure progress with weekly reviews. Once a week, sit for 20 to 30 minutes and look at the evidence. Which daily behaviors were completed? What distractions won most often? What adjustments to the environment, schedule, or rules are needed? The review is where strategy adapts to reality. If a rule is consistently broken, refine it or remove its friction. If a behavior reliably produces leverage, expand its frequency. The weekly review is the bridge between intention and reality. It keeps the system honest and evolving. Cultivate an inner voice of patience and toughness. Clarifying goals and removing distractions will reveal internal resistance. The stories that explain why now is not the right time, why perfection is required, why comfort must be preserved. Respond with a stoic question. What is the smallest brave step I can take right now? Brave steps are tiny but meaningful choices that build identity. The person who writes every morning, who says no without guilt, who finishes what is started. Identity follows action. Choose actions that align with the person you want to become. Align incentives with your goals. Externalize consequences when willpower falters. Make public commitments. Create accountability partners. Or use simple stakes. A small donation to a cause you dislike if a milestone is missed. A reward for consistent streaks. Accountability converts private discipline into social reality. When possible, create systems that automate follow-through, recurring calendar blocks, automated reminders that are tied to rewards, or commitments to others that require completion. External systems reduce reliance on fluctuating motivation. Finally, remember that elimination is as powerful as addition. Productivity is not accumulation, it is subtraction. Clearing space for what matters might mean closing a business, pausing a social habit, or ending a relationship that consumes time and drains energy. These decisions are difficult and require moral clarity. Use the question, does this activity or relationship help the 90-day outcome or the keystone behaviors? If the answer is no and the cost is high, consider liberation comes from removing the unnecessary so the necessary can flourish. The first pillar, clarify goals and eliminate distractions, is a daily act of discipline. It asks for courage to choose, the intelligence to design the environment, and the patience to repeat small actions until they become character. The work is simple but not easy. Each morning, show up to the appointed block, honor the rituals, guard the boundaries, and mark a small victory on the tracker. Over time, the small victories accumulate into unmistakable change. Projects finished, skills acquired, relationships deepened, life simplified. This is not a secret. It is a method practiced by quiet people who choose clarity over chaos and who understand that attention is the currency of meaning. Number 2, build consistent habits daily. Building consistent habits daily is the backbone of transformation. Without repetition, brilliance is fleeting. Without routine, intention dissipates. Life is shaped less by monumental moments and more by the quiet accumulation of small, purposeful actions repeated day after day. Each habit is a vote toward the person you become, a thread woven into the fabric of identity. The path to mastery and a productive life is not discovered in bursts of motivation. It is forged in the disciplined cadence of daily practice. Consistency begins with awareness. The first step is to examine current routines with brutal honesty. Track every action for 3 days without judgment, recording how time is spent from waking to sleep. This is not an exercise in guilt, but in clarity. Patterns emerge. The moments of procrastination, the habits that drain energy, the small decisions that either propel forward or stall progress. Awareness illuminates the invisible scaffolding of daily life. Once visible, these patterns can be restructured with intention rather than whim. Start small and precise. Grand gestures often fail because they attempt to change everything at once. Instead, identify the keystone habits that produce disproportionate results. A keystone habit could be writing 500 words daily, meditating for 10 minutes each morning, or committing to a 20-minute evening walk. The key is specificity. Ambiguous intentions like exercise more or read more dissolve under pressure. Pinpoint exactly what action will occur when and under what conditions. The smaller the action, the more reliably it can be repeated, and repetition is the engine of transfer. Anchor habits to triggers in the existing routine. The brain craves association. Attach a new habit to an already established behavior. After brushing teeth, immediately journal 3 gratitudes. After pouring coffee, write a single sentence toward the project. After setting the alarm, plan the top 3 tasks for the day. Anchoring reduces cognitive friction. The habit becomes automatic over time because the brain links it with something familiar and unavoidable. This reduces the reliance on fluctuating willpower, which is notoriously unreliable. Sequence habits strategically. Not all habits are equal in energy or importance. Mornings are fertile ground for high-leverage habits because energy is freshest and distractions are minimal. Place demanding cognitive or creative tasks early, when clarity and focus are highest. Reserve the afternoon for moderate energy routines like correspondence, administrative work, or lighter creative output. Evenings can host reflective habits, reviewing progress, journaling, stretching, or reading. Aligning habits with natural energy cycles enhances consistency without forcing unsustainable effort. Environment shapes behavior profoundly. Habits are rarely sustained against persistent friction. Arrange physical and digital surroundings to favor repetition. Remove obstacles to action, and add cues that prompt the habit. If reading is a daily goal, keep books visible and accessible. If exercise is required, lay out workout clothes the night before. If meditation is necessary, create a quiet, inviting space free from distractions. Environment communicates silently. The easier the action, the more likely it becomes routine. Small changes in the environment often yield outsized results in habit formation. Monitor and measure progress. Habits thrive on feedback. Without a record, it is easy to overestimate consistency or let lapses slide unnoticed. Use simple systems to track completion daily: a calendar checkmark, a habit app, or a journal entry. Over time, the visual evidence of consistency builds momentum. Missing one day is not failure. It is data. Observe patterns, adjust accordingly, and double down on what works. Measurement converts vague intention into accountable action. Use immediate rewards to reinforce the habit loop. The brain responds to reinforcement more reliably than to abstract outcomes. Pair the completion of a habit with a small reward. Savor a cup of tea after a writing session. Listen to a favorite song after exercise. Take a brief walk after reviewing notes. These micro-rewards create positive associations, making the habit easier to repeat. Reinforcement is not indulgence. It is strategic conditioning, a way to cement the action into routine until it becomes part of identity. Embrace the power of sequencing habits incrementally. Rarely do monumental transformations occur overnight. Instead, build layers of habits slowly. Master one behavior until it becomes effortless, then layer another on top. This is the principle of compounding in action. A single consistent habit can catalyze change across multiple domains. For example, committing to a morning meditation may enhance focus, reduce emotional reactivity, improve sleep, and strengthen decision-making, all by consistent practice. Layered habits compound over months, creating exponential returns in productivity and personal growth. Anticipate and plan for resistance. Habits are not merely mechanical. They encounter the internal and external forces of distraction, fatigue, and temptation. Resistance is inevitable, but predictable. Identify likely obstacles in advance and create preemptive solutions. If mornings are chaotic, set out clothes and breakfast ingredients the night before. If fatigue threatens consistency, schedule habits around peak energy. If social obligations interrupt routine, communicate boundaries clearly. Anticipating resistance converts random disruptions into manageable challenges rather than derailments. Focus on identity over outcomes. Habits are most resilient when tied to self-concept. Rather than aiming solely to write a book, exercise, or learn a skill, frame the habit around becoming a type of person: a writer, an athlete, a learner. Identity-based habits answer the question, who do I want to be? Each action then reinforces identity, and identity reinforces action. Missing a day is not a failure in productivity. It is a temporary deviation in the trajectory of self-definition, which can be corrected without guilt. Allow for strategic flexibility. Consistency does not mean rigidity. Life is unpredictable, and habits must survive context changes. Create adaptable routines that honor the habit without demanding perfection. For instance, if a morning run is impossible due to weather, substitute indoor exercise. If writing at the desk is blocked, write standing or with a tablet. Consistency lies in continuity, not in the uniformity of conditions. The habit survives because the core action continues in some form. Reflect and adjust regularly. Weekly or bi-weekly reviews ensure that habits remain relevant and effective. Ask, is this habit moving me toward the life I want? Is it sustainable? Are there small adjustments that make it easier to perform consistently? Reflection prevents stagnation and allows refinement. Habits are not static. They evolve with circumstances, energy levels, and priorities. The person who reviews and adapts habits grows steadily, while the unexamined routine becomes mechanical and unproductive. Understand the emotional component. Habits often fail not because of lack of discipline, but because of emotional friction. Identify emotions linked to the habit: fear, boredom, discomfort, pride, or satisfaction. Work with emotions rather than against them. Introduce small, emotionally positive cues, encouraging self-talk, enjoyable surroundings, or rewarding milestones. Over time, emotional resistance weakens, and the habit becomes an instinctive part of daily life. Celebrate streaks without attachment. Consistency builds confidence, but it is not perfectionism. Notice patterns of completion and acknowledge progress. Each uninterrupted day, week, or month of practice reinforces belief in personal capability. Yet remain flexible. A missed day is not catastrophic. The focus is on the long-term trajectory, not on each isolated instance. The accumulation of repeated action far outweighs occasional lapses. Visualize long-term effects. Daily habits may feel insignificant in isolation, but imagining the cumulative impact reinforces persistence. Picture the person you will be in 3 months, X months, a year if the habit is maintained. Feel the improved health, increased skill, and strengthened resilience. Visualization adds emotional weight to the action, bridging the gap between present effort and future reward. The mind begins to see daily repetition, not as core but as investment and identity in life outcomes. Understand that habit building is a mastery of choice. Every day presents countless micro-decisions, each nudging toward or away from the life desired. Habits remove the need for constant negotiation by creating automatic behaviors aligned with goals. The disciplined life is built not on occasional inspiration but on the architecture of choice, engineered through repetition, attention, and refinement. Habitual consistency converts fleeting intention into tangible progress. Daily habits form the invisible architecture of a productive life. Each action, repeated, becomes a pillar supporting mastery, resilience, and fulfillment. By building consistent habits daily, the mind and body learn alignment, the will grows stronger, and the life that once seemed elusive begins to take shape. The quiet, relentless work of repetition compounds, and the person who masters their daily behaviors becomes unstoppable. Not because of extraordinary talent, but because of extraordinary discipline sustained every day, without exception, without pause, and without surrender. Number 3. Manage energy, not time. Time is a finite commodity, but energy is the true currency of productivity. Every moment has potential, yet potential is realized only when energy aligns with purpose. Managing time alone is a flawed strategy. Hours can be filled yet unproductive, tasks completed yet shallow. Energy governs attention, focus, and execution. The most disciplined schedules fail when the body is depleted, the mind distracted, or the spirit disengaged. To operate at peak performance, one must cultivate, preserve, and strategically deploy energy across physical, mental, and emotional domains. This is the third pillar of a productive life, managing energy, not merely counting minutes. The first step is to understand your natural energy rhythms. Every individual has biological peaks and valleys. Some awaken with clarity and vigor. Others are slow starters who bloom later in the day. Observe patterns over at least 2 weeks. Track alertness, mood, and focus in intervals: morning, midday, afternoon, and evening. Note the times when tasks feel effortless versus draining. Energy mapping is not about judgment. It is about intelligence. Once the patterns are visible, schedule high-leverage tasks during peak zones and reserve low-energy periods for administrative or routine work. Aligning activity with natural rhythms multiplies output without adding effort. Nutrition profoundly impacts energy. Meals are not just sustenance. They are fuel for focus and resilience. Consuming heavy processed foods triggers lethargy, while frequent sugar spikes, followed by crashes, sabotage sustained concentration. Prioritize whole foods rich in protein, fiber, and complex carbohydrates, combined with healthy fats. Hydration is equally critical. Even mild dehydration impairs cognitive performance. Timing meals strategically around demanding work blocks ensures the body has the nutrients and hydration to sustain attention. Skipping meals or relying on caffeine alone is a short-term solution that diminishes long-term energy. Sleep is a non-negotiable foundation. Chronic sleep deprivation erodes the ability to maintain focus, regulate emotion, and think critically. Regular restorative sleep is the most reliable productivity enhancer. Establish a wind-down routine, dim lights, avoid screens, and engage in calming activities. Consistent sleep and wake times synchronize the body's circadian rhythm, enhancing alertness during the day. Short naps of 15 to 20 minutes can restore vitality, but long or irregular daytime sleep may disrupt the rhythm. Sleep is not passive. It is strategic energy investment, the bedrock of sustained performance. Movement and exercise generate energy rather than merely consuming it. Physical activity stimulates circulation, oxygenates the brain, and releases neurotransmitters that elevate mood and alertness. Even brief bouts, a 10-minute walk, bodyweight exercises, or stretching can restore energy during slumps. High-intensity sessions once or twice per week enhance stamina, but consistent moderate movement maintains baseline vitality daily. The body thrives when challenged and supported simultaneously. A sedentary day may feel like saving time, but it actually depletes energy and impairs execution. Mental focus demands restoration, not endless strain. Extended periods of cognitive exertion exhaust neurotransmitters and attention resources. The brain is like a muscle. It grows stronger with rest cycles, not continuous strain. Employ deliberate breaks. Walk outside, observe surroundings, or meditate for a few minutes. Micro breaks refresh attention, prevent burnout, and enhance decision-making quality. Avoid multitasking. It divides energy and attention. Single tasking, combined with periodic mental resets, produces higher quality work in less chronological time. Emotions are a potent source of energy. Stress, anxiety, or frustration drains attention rapidly, while satisfaction, curiosity, and engagement amplify it. Managing emotional energy is as important as physical stamina. Identify triggers of negative emotional states and establish interventions. Deep breathing, reframing perspectives, journaling, or brief physical activity. Cultivate emotional anchors, practices or relationships that elevate mood reliably. Energy management without emotional awareness is incomplete, as the mind cannot operate at full capacity under constant tension or distraction. Environment mediates energy expenditure. Spaces that are cluttered, noisy, or visually chaotic drain mental energy even before action begins. Organize work areas to reduce cognitive friction. Use lighting that enhances alertness, comfortable seating, and minimal distractions. Sounds matter. Soft background music or white noise can sustain concentration, while constant interruptions or alerts fragment energy. The environment should amplify vigor, not siphon it. Adjust surroundings to meet the demands of the task, recognizing that energy flows more freely when external conditions are aligned. Technology can both amplify and drain energy. Devices, notifications, and endless streams of information fragment focus and exhaust mental reserves. Manage inputs rigorously. Batch email checking, disable unnecessary alerts, and schedule social media consumption intentionally. Leverage tools that automate repetitive tasks without requiring constant oversight. The principle is energy preservation. Technology should extend capacity, not erode it. Selective consumption of digital content and deliberate boundaries protect the mental and emotional bandwidth required for high-leverage work. Energy replenishment requires conscious scheduling. Even the most disciplined individuals cannot sustain peak performance indefinitely. Structure the day to include natural recovery periods. Midday breaks, evening wind downs, or brief moments of reflection reset the system. Recovery is not laziness. It is strategic maintenance. Over time, these restorative intervals prevent cumulative depletion, sustain motivation, and enhance long-term productivity. Treat recovery as a critical input equal in importance to action itself. Cognitive load management is essential. Every decision, every mental shift costs energy. Reduce unnecessary cognitive expenditure by simplifying choices. Standardize routines, meals, clothing, exercise, and daily planning. Minimize trivial decisions early in the day, reserving mental energy for high-priority work. Pre-deciding elements of the day frees the mind to focus on critical challenges. Energy saved from small decisions compounds into the capacity for creative, strategic, or high-stakes work. The mind-body connection is central. Physical, mental, and emotional energy are interdependent. A depleted body limits mental acuity. A stressed mind reduces physical endurance. Holistic management entails attention to sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, and meaningful engagement. Evaluate energy levels in all domains: Fatigue in one area often signals imbalance elsewhere. Integrated practices, walking meetings, mindful movement, meditation, structured nutrition, synergize energy across domains, producing sustained effectiveness. Rituals serve as energy anchors. Small, repeated practices that prepare the body and mind for action conserve effort. Morning routines that incorporate movement, hydration, planning, and reflection signal to the brain that energy will be directed purposefully. Evening rituals that disengage attention, relax muscles, and clear the mind facilitate restorative sleep. Rituals create predictable energy transitions, reducing waste in the form of decision fatigue or emotional volatility. Monitor energy output, not just task completion. Productivity is often measured by hours worked or tasks checked off, but output without vitality is shallow and unsustainable. Observe the quality, engagement, and endurance of work. A focused, energized hour is worth more than 3 distracted, fatigued hours. Learning to measure energy investment rather than chronological investment shifts focus from busyness to effectiveness, transforming daily effort into meaningful progress. Account for cumulative energy. Individual days are not isolated. Patterns compound over weeks and months. Chronic neglect of energy, skipping sleep, ignoring nutrition, overloading mental tasks, accumulates as fatigue, irritability, and burnout. Plan energy strategically across the week. Heavy cognitive tasks on peak days, moderate work on intermediate days, lighter recovery on low-energy days. Long-term productivity is sustained, not by heroic bursts, but by consistent, intentional management of reserves. Finally, view energy as leverage. When energy is aligned with priorities, tasks are executed with precision, creativity flows, and resilience strengthens. When energy is mismanaged, even ample time produces mediocre results. Daily practice in energy awareness, preservation, and strategic deployment transforms ordinary schedules into high-output systems. Energy management turns life from a reactive scramble to a deliberate, aligned flow. Each decision about sleep, food, movement, environment, and emotional state compounds into performance. Attention is the arrow. Energy is the bow. Without sufficient tension, the arrow never reaches its mark. Managing energy instead of obsessing over time is an invitation to mastery over self. It demands self-awareness, discipline, and foresight. It requires cultivating the conditions in which body, mind, and spirit operate optimally. Energy becomes the lens through which daily choices are filtered, which task to engage in, which interaction to prioritize, which environment to enter, which rituals to honor. Mastery over energy produces more than productivity. It creates clarity, presence, and the capacity to achieve with grace and resilience. The life shaped by energy-conscious action is not frantic or scattered, but deliberate, powerful, and sustainable. A life where each moment carries weight because it is fueled with vitality and intention. Number 4. Prioritize deep work mornings. The morning holds a unique kind of power that the rest of the day rarely matches. In those early hours, the mind is freshest, the body is rested, and the world is quiet. Few distractions exist to pull attention away from meaningful work, and decisions have yet to compound into fatigue. Prioritizing deep work in the mornings is not merely a habit, it is a strategic commitment to creating the conditions in which brilliance, focus, and significant progress emerge. Deep work is the state in which the mind operates with unbroken attention, tackling complex challenges, generating original ideas, and producing work that matters. The mornings, more than any other time, are fertile ground for this kind of work. The first step is to treat the morning as sacred. Begin by designing a structured routine that signals the brain that focus is expected and valued. Waking at a consistent time sets the body's internal clock, creating rhythm and predictability. Begin with practices that awaken the senses and prime mental clarity. Hydration, light movement, deep breathing, or a brief meditation. These practices anchor the mind and body, creating readiness to enter deep rest. The morning ritual serves as a bridge from rest to high-performance action, signaling that the most important work of the day begins now. Isolation from distractions is critical. Deep work requires uninterrupted attention, yet even subtle interruptions, Notifications, emails, messages, or the presence of others fracture focus. Create boundaries. Close doors, silence devices, and inform others that work is not to be disturbed during this period. Environmental cues reinforce the brain's ability to enter flow. A tidy workspace, natural light, and a dedicated location for concentration enhance both comfort and commitment. These small structural adjustments protect the fragile energy required for intense cognitive work. Begin with the highest priority task. Mornings are optimal for addressing challenges that require creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. Decide in advance which project or task deserves this time, ideally something that moves the needle toward meaningful goals. Avoid substituting small, easy tasks for significant work because the morning is available. Starting the day with impactful work sets the tone for the hours that follow and ensures that the most important contributions are made when energy is at its peak. Chunk time intentionally. Deep work thrives in focus blocks without interruption. Commit at least 90 minutes to a single task before taking a break. The brain requires a window to warm into flow, and frequent context switching interrupts this natural rhythm. Shorter bursts of high-intensity focus can be effective, but prolonged engagement produces the highest quality results. Use a timer or a calendar block to mark these sessions as inviolable, emphasizing their strategic importance. Over time, these repeated morning sessions create neural pathways that make entering focus increasingly effortless. Prior preparation amplifies effectiveness. Before beginning a deep work session, clarify the objective and the desired outcome. Outline key steps or subtasks to avoid wasting time deciding what to do next. Clarity in action reduces mental friction and preserves energy for execution, rather than planning mid-session. Preparation also includes gathering necessary tools, documents, or references in advance, preventing interruptions that could fragment attention. A session begun with deliberate readiness sustains momentum and produces tangible results. Leverage natural energy for cognitive intensity. Mornings are often when alertness, working memory, and creative capacity are highest. Avoid consuming energy-depleting activities before deep work. Intense email checking, social media scrolling, or low-value errands. Preserve the peak period for tasks that require concentration and insight. When physical and mental energy are aligned, the mind can generate novel ideas, solve complex problems, and maintain the discipline needed to push through challenging tasks without succumbing to fatigue or distraction. Ritualize the transition into deep work. The brain thrives on cues that signal shifts in states. A consistent pre-work routine, brewing coffee, opening a specific notebook, reviewing yesterday's progress, communicates to the mind that it is time to enter an elevated state of focus. Repetition reinforces this association, reducing the cognitive energy needed to initiate deep work. Over time, the transition becomes automatic, and the mind slides into focus with minimal resistance. Rituals reduce the friction of starting, which is often the most significant barrier to productivity. Manage attention, not just presence. Simply sitting at a desk is insufficient. Deep work demands deliberate focus on the task itself, without multitasking or passive engagement. Allocate attention fully to the work at hand, resisting the urge to check messages, respond to non-essential requests, or drift into unrelated mental wanderings. Train attention like a muscle. The longer it is exercised in a state of uninterrupted focus, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. The mornings offer a prime environment to cultivate this strength because external distractions are naturally minimized. Introduce brief mental resets when necessary. Even in the morning, the mind may falter under extended focus. Short pauses, a few deep breaths, a stretch, or a quick walk prevent diminishing returns and restore attention. The key is brevity and intentionality. The goal is not distraction, but rejuvenation. Strategic micro breaks maintain sustained performance across the session, ensuring that deep work remains productive rather than devolving into rote, unfocused effort. Prioritize tasks that require the highest cognitive load first. Complex problem solving, creative output, and strategic thinking benefit most from fresh energy. Routine, Low-value tasks can be deferred until later in the day when energy naturally wanes. This approach ensures that the most impactful work is done when the mind is capable of its best performance, avoiding the trap of completing minor activities at the expense of critical projects. Strategic sequencing maximizes the return on energy investment. Track output, not hours. Deep work is defined by results, not presence. Keep a log of completed tasks, insights generated, or tangible outputs created during each morning session. Reviewing outcomes reinforces accountability, highlights progress, and identifies patterns that can inform future work. This data-driven approach transforms effort into measurable achievement, sustaining motivation and demonstrating the real-world impact of consistent focus. Protect momentum after sessions. The conclusion of a morning deep work period is as important as the start. Avoid immediately shifting into low-value distractions. Instead, capture ideas, outline next steps, and briefly reflect on progress. This practice ensures continuity between sessions and reduces the mental friction of restarting work in subsequent periods. Momentum becomes a force multiplier when preserved intentionally. Anchor identity to the practice. Mornings are not simply convenient, they are symbolic of a disciplined, purpose-driven life. By consistently choosing to engage in deep work at the start of the day, a sense of identity as a focused, effective, and capable individual is reinforced. The repetition of deliberate actions solidifies character, making focus and productivity a defining trait rather than a sporadic effort. Identity-based commitment strengthens adherence to the practice over time. Adapt the environment to sustain energy and attention. Light, temperature, air quality, and seating all influence cognitive performance. Experiment with conditions to find what consistently promotes alertness and comfort. Consider natural light exposure to signal wakefulness and cognitive readiness. Subtle sensory adjustments can amplify focus and reduce the physiological cost of deep work, allowing for longer, more productive sessions. Integrate reflection into the morning routine. Briefly reviewing yesterday's successes, setbacks, and key takeaways primes the mind for strategic engagement. Reflection creates a sense of continuity, providing context for decisions and reducing unnecessary mental load. This ensures that the energy invested in deep work is targeted effectively, producing results that align with broader goals rather than scattered effort. Deep work mornings are ultimately about choice and control. The commitment is to protect prime cognitive energy, align action with priorities, and cultivate conditions that amplify focus. Every uninterrupted session compounds into skill, knowledge, and tangible progress. Over weeks and months, the accumulation of these mornings transforms capability, fosters confidence, and reinforces discipline. Prioritizing deep work in the mornings is not merely scheduling. It is designing a life in which intention consistently converts into achievement. A life where the first hours dictate the quality and impact of everything that follows. Number 5. Design focus-friendly environments. The spaces in which we live and work shape our ability to focus more than most realize. A cluttered room, constant noise, or disorganized desk does not merely annoy. It subtly erodes attention, drains mental energy, and sabotages productivity. Focus is not an abstract skill acquired through sheer willpower alone. It is cultivated by the environment that surrounds it. Designing a focus-friendly environment is not about aesthetic perfection or minimalism for its own sake. It is about creating a system in which attention flows effortlessly toward the work that matters. This fifth pillar of a productive life is the conscious architecture of space to serve clarity, energy, and output. Begin by identifying environmental distractions that silently consume attention. Noise, visual clutter, digital interruptions, and even uncomfortable seating all fragment cognitive capacity. Conduct a thorough audit. Observe how often the eyes dart toward unnecessary objects, how frequently devices demand attention, and what external sounds interrupt thought. These intrusions are not minor. The mind expends energy managing them, reducing capacity for creative or high-leverage work. Recognizing these hidden drains is the first step toward constructing an environment that enhances focus rather than diminishes it. Simplification is a powerful principle. Remove items from sight that do not contribute directly to the task at hand. A clean, organized workspace reduces the brain's load in filtering irrelevant information. Physical clutter corresponds to mental clutter. Objects should have a purpose and location. Every item not actively used during focus periods should be stored elsewhere. Minimalism in function, not style, allows the mind to operate without distraction. When every element in the environment communicates intention, focus becomes easier to summon and sustain. Lighting profoundly influences concentration and energy. Natural light supports circadian rhythms and alertness, while dim or artificial lighting can induce fatigue and slow cognitive processing. Position desks near windows when possible, or use daylight simulating bulbs to maintain wakefulness. Shadows, glare, or overly bright light can also disrupt attention. The goal is to create visual conditions that support the mind's natural rhythms, allowing sustained engagement without conscious effort to remain alert. Lighting is an invisible yet critical lever for optimizing focus. Noise management is equally essential. The brain reacts instinctively to auditory stimuli, even when ignored consciously. Constant background chatter, notifications, or ambient disturbances fragment attention and slow thinking. Noise-canceling headphones, soft instrumental music, or white noise generators create a buffer that allows uninterrupted cognitive processing. Silence is often ideal, but controlled auditory environments can enhance sustained engagement. Choosing the right soundscape is a deliberate act of environmental design that protects focus. Digital organization is a cornerstone of focus-friendly spaces. Computers, phones, and tablets are sources of immense distraction if left unmanaged. Declutter digital interfaces, remove unnecessary icons, disable non-essential notifications, and organize frequently used tools for easy access. Batch email and messaging into scheduled intervals, reducing the constant tug of reactive attention. Digital spaces should serve as platforms for action, not as channels of distraction. The goal is to transform technology from a fragmenting force into a productivity amplifier. Designate specific zones for specific activities. When possible, separate spaces for work, relaxation, exercise, and leisure. Reduce cognitive confusion. The brain associates physical environments with behaviors. Working from a bed, for example, diminishes focus because the mind links that space with rest. A dedicated workspace signals to the brain that attention and productivity are expected. This separation also creates natural cues for entering flow states, reducing the mental friction of starting complex or demanding tasks. Temperature and comfort influence sustained engagement. Extreme heat, cold, or discomfort diverts energy from thinking to survival. Ergonomic seating, appropriate desk height, and well-ventilated spaces support physical well-being, which in turn preserves cognitive energy. Small adjustments like a chair that supports posture or a standing desk that alternates positions have outsized effects on the ability to maintain attention. Physical ease is an invisible infrastructure that allows focus to flourish uninterrupted. Control visual inputs carefully. Minimal distractions, strategically placed objects, and visually calm surroundings prevent the mind from wandering. Walls painted in neutral tones, organized shelves, and essential tools within easy reach reduce unnecessary scanning or cognitive friction. Visual harmony creates mental calm, supporting sustained engagement. Contrastingly, chaotic visual environments require constant micro-decisions and attention filtering, subtly draining mental resources. A focus-oriented space is a space where eyes land purposefully, guiding the mind toward action rather than distraction. Tools and materials should be organized for accessibility. Reaching for resources should be effortless. Pens, notebooks, devices, or reference materials arranged logically reduce interruption and maintain the flow of work. Every second spent searching for an item breaks concentration and diminishes productivity. Consistency in the placement of tools trains the brain to operate smoothly, conserving energy for high-priority cognitive work rather than low-value search activity. Preparation becomes invisible when systems are reliable. Incorporate natural elements when possible. Plants, fresh air, and views of nature reduce mental fatigue and improve attention. Even subtle exposure like a small plant on a desk or a window overlooking greenery stimulates calm alertness. The mind thrives when the environment supports a sense of well-being, subtly reinforcing focus. Sensory engagement beyond purely functional elements sustains energy and prevents the fatigue that arises from sterile or inspiring spaces. Rituals anchored in the environment enhance focus. Arranging specific objects in preparation for work, starting a timer or engaging in a brief sequence of movement primes the mind for sustained attention. Environmental cues signal readiness, transforming the space into an active participant in productivity. Over time, these rituals condition the brain to respond automatically, reducing friction in entering deep work. Space, when coupled with ritual, becomes a scaffold for consistency and output. Minimize temptation by removing or separating distracting elements. Food, phones, personal notifications, and unrelated reading materials should be stored out of reach during focus periods. The fewer the external demands on attention, the less the mind must resist impulses, and the more energy remains for the task at hand. Strategic elimination of distraction is more effective than reliance on willpower alone, which is finite and variable. Focus-friendly environments remove the need for constant internal negotiation. Personalize the environment subtly, while minimalism aids clarity, incorporating motivational cues, quotes, images, or objects that remind of purpose reinforces engagement and intention. These elements should support work without fragmenting attention. Personalized reminders serve as anchors to larger goals, subtly motivating persistence during challenging tasks. The environment becomes a silent coach, reinforcing values and priorities rather than demanding active reflection. Test and iterate constantly. A focus-friendly environment is dynamic, not static. Observe which elements enhance attention and which inadvertently reduce it. Adjust lighting, sound, layout, and object placement to optimize performance. The best spaces evolve alongside habits, energy patterns, and work requirements. Flexibility and responsiveness prevent stagnation and ensure that the environment continues to amplify focus, rather than become a passive backdrop. Energy flow within the space is crucial. Design layouts that reduce unnecessary movement, friction, or mental load. Position frequently used items within easy reach, create clear pathways, and avoid visual obstacles. The physical arrangement of a space influences the cognitive effort required for action. Smooth, logical design preserves attention for creative or strategic tasks, rather than for navigating environmental inefficiencies. The cumulative effect of a focus-friendly environment is profound. By deliberately shaping surroundings to reduce friction, eliminate distractions, and enhance energy, the mind is freed to operate at its natural potential. Productivity becomes less about heroic effort and more about intelligent design. The environment silently sustains habits, attention, and energy, allowing work to be executed efficiently, creatively, and consistently. It becomes an invisible partner in achieving meaningful results. A system designed not for appearance, but for performance. A well-designed space supports not only the work itself, but also resilience. When challenges arise, when fatigue threatens, or when focus falters, the environment acts as a stabilizing force. Comfortable, organized, and intentional surroundings reduce stress, conserve energy, and create the conditions for persistence. Productivity is amplified not just by what is done, but by the context in which action occurs. Every choice in layout, sound, light, and accessibility compounds to either support or undermine performance. Designing focus-friendly environments transforms daily life into a system optimized for attention, energy, and output. It requires observation, deliberate removal of distractions, and strategic addition of supportive elements. The investment is invisible in the moment, but cumulative over time. Consistent engagement in spaces that honor focus multiplies effectiveness, enhances learning, and accelerates goal achievement. Life becomes a place where work is executed with precision, clarity, and ease, not because of extraordinary effort, but because every detail of the environment has been aligned to amplify what the mind can achieve. Number 6, review weekly. Refine systems. Reviewing weekly and refining systems is the quiet, often overlooked practice that separates fleeting effort from sustained achievement. Consistency without reflection is like running a marathon blindfolded. Miles are covered, yet direction and efficiency are lost. Systems are the invisible architecture of productivity, and weekly reviews are the lens through which their effectiveness is measured, recalibrated, and optimized. A productive life is not built on random effort, but on deliberate cycles of action, observation, and adjustment. Without periodic reflection, even the most disciplined habits drift into stagnation, and the energy invested produces diminishing returns. Begin with a structured review ritual. Set aside a fixed time each week, preferably at the same hour and day, to reflect on the past 7 days. This period is not for judgment or self-criticism, but for observation and learning. Gather all materials: calendars, journals, task lists, project notes, and habit trackers. The objective is to assemble a complete picture of what transpired, what succeeded, what faltered, and what patterns emerge. Treat this time as sacred. The quality of reflection dictates the quality of subsequent action. Start by analyzing outcomes versus intentions. Compare planned tasks, priorities, and goals with what was actually accomplished. Identify discrepancies, but approach them as data rather than failure. For each gap, ask, why did this occur? Was the task misaligned with energy levels? Was it deprioritized? Or did external circumstances intervene? Understanding the underlying causes transforms deviations into insight. Repetition without understanding reinforces inefficiency, whereas insight allows the system itself to evolve and improve. Examine time allocation critically. Track how hours were spent during the week, and assess which activities produced disproportionate results. Identify tasks that consumed significant energy but contributed little value. Conversely, highlight activities that yielded high leverage with minimal input. This analysis uncovers hidden inefficiencies and guides decisions about where to invest effort in the upcoming week. Time becomes not a metric of activity, but a lens for evaluating the return on energy and attention. Evaluate habits and routines. Daily practices form the backbone of productivity, but they are only as effective as their alignment with larger goals. During the review, scrutinize which habits were consistently executed and which were neglected. Explore the reasons behind inconsistencies: environmental friction, lack of clarity, emotional resistance, or insufficient reinforcement. Adjust routines to remove barriers. Add cues or modify timing. Systems are living structures. They require constant refinement to remain aligned with evolving priorities and energy patterns. Assess workflow systems. Consider how tasks were captured, tracked, and executed. Are tools and processes facilitating action, or are they introducing unnecessary friction? Look at task management, project tracking, and documentation. Simplify where complexity is unnecessary, and automate where repetition drains attention. Even minor refinements in systems can compound over time, creating exponential improvements in efficiency. A well-tuned system reduces cognitive load and preserves mental energy for high-leverage work. Incorporate reflection on energy patterns. Beyond tasks and routines, examine the interplay between energy, focus, and output. Identify periods of peak performance and moments of depletion. Were tasks matched appropriately to energy levels? Did fatigue, distraction, or emotional state impact execution? Use these insights to realign the upcoming week with energy peaks, assigning demanding work to high-energy periods and lighter administrative tasks to natural lulls. System design is incomplete without consideration of human capacity. Seek patterns in decision-making. Weekly reviews illuminate how choices influenced productivity. Were certain decisions consistently delayed, avoided, or made hastily? Did impulsive actions or reactive responses derail priorities? Reflection exposes recurring pitfalls, allowing rules or frameworks to be introduced that guide better decisions. Designing systems that preemptively account for decision fatigue and habitual errors strengthens consistency and resilience. Capture lessons learned. Each week provides feedback on what strategies, approaches, or habits yielded success. Document these lessons clearly and extract actionable insights. Use this repository to inform adjustments to processes, habits, and task management in subsequent weeks. Over time, this creates a personal knowledge base of what consistently produces results, reducing trial and error, and accelerating growth. Learning is compounded when reflection is structured and applied systematically. Plan strategically for the week ahead. Use insights from the review to prioritize tasks, allocate energy, and adjust habits. Identify high-leverage actions that align with goals and schedule them deliberately. Integrate any necessary system changes immediately to ensure that improvements are implemented rather than merely noted. Weekly planning without reflection is guesswork. Reflection without planning produces no forward motion. The combination of both creates a continuous loop of assessment, adaptation, and execution. Integrate feedback from external sources. Review interactions, meetings, or communications to determine if systems support collaboration and external accountability. Were commitments met? Did projects advance according to plan? Did communication practices enhance clarity or introduce confusion? Adjust protocols, communication tools, or routines to streamline collaboration and reduce friction. Systems extend personal practices. They include the structures through which work with others is coordinated and optimized. Consider environmental and contextual influences. Reflect on how physical, digital, and social environments affected productivity. Were workspaces optimized for focus? Did digital tools amplify attention or create distraction? Were social obligations aligned with priorities or siphoning energy? Modify environmental variables to better support deep work, energy management, and habitual consistency. Systems are ecosystemic. Their effectiveness is shaped by surroundings as much as by internal discipline. Evaluate emotional and motivational states. Productivity is intertwined with engagement and morale. Identify moments where emotional energy either enhanced or hindered performance. Reflect on how mindset, stress, and motivation influenced output and decision-making. Integrate strategies to sustain emotional equilibrium, scheduled recovery, deliberate breaks, gratitude exercises, or motivational anchors. A productive system acknowledges the interplay of mind, body, and emotion. Implement measurable adjustments. Each review should conclude with tangible, actionable refinements to systems. Introduce, modify, or remove routines, processes, or tools. Schedule next week's priorities with clarity about what has been learned. Systems evolve iteratively. Small, deliberate improvements compound into substantial efficiency gains over months. The goal is continuous optimization, not perfection in a single iteration. Document the evolution. Maintaining a record of past reviews creates a narrative of progress and adaptation. Over time, patterns emerge that highlight which strategies endure, which habits reliably yield results, and which systemic adjustments produce exponential returns. Historical insight strengthens judgment, allowing future refinements to be more precise and intentional. Reflection becomes cumulative intelligence, enhancing long-term productivity beyond isolated weeks. Build accountability into the review process. Sharing insights, progress, and planned adjustments with a mentor, partner, or team enhances commitment. Accountability ensures that insights are translated into action rather than merely noted. Systems become robust when embedded within a network of accountability, providing external reinforcement that complements internal discipline. Reflection and adjustment gain momentum when combined with shared responsibility. Recognize progress and setbacks with equanimity. Weekly reviews are not venues for self-punishment, but for observation, insight, and strategy. Celebrate completed milestones, even small ones, as confirmation that systems are working. Identify setbacks objectively, extracting lessons without emotional reactivity. Maintaining a balanced perspective fosters resilience, motivation, and clarity, ensuring that systems continue to evolve rather than stagnate under discouragement or complacency. Weekly reviews create the feedback loop that sustains mastery. They transform effort into insight, habit into strategy, and action into evolution. By observing outcomes, analyzing patterns, adjusting routines, and refining systems, productivity becomes adaptive, intelligent, and resilient. The life of a productive individual is continuously recalibrated. Nothing is left to chance, and every week contributes to the cumulative architecture of achievement. Systems are not static rules. They are living structures, continuously honed through deliberate reflection and careful adjustment, ensuring that effort compounds into meaningful, sustained results. Number 7. Balance work, health, relationship. Life is a delicate ecosystem, and productivity cannot thrive when one area dominates to the exclusion of others. Work, health, and relationships are the three pillars that support sustainable achievement and fulfillment. Neglect any one of them, and the structure begins to wobble. Excelling in work while ignoring physical well-being leads to fatigue, illness, and reduced capacity. Focusing exclusively on health at the expense of professional purpose can result in unfulfilled potential. Investing only in relationships while neglecting personal growth or financial stability creates dependence and frustration. Balance is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical necessity for lasting productivity and meaningful life. It requires conscious choices, intentional scheduling, and the discipline to honor each domain consistently. Start by mapping priorities in each area. Identify core obligations, goals, and commitments for work, health, and relationships. For work, consider what outcomes will most advance long-term objectives. For health, define the activities that maintain or improve physical and mental well-being. Exercise routines, nutrition plans, and restorative practices. For relationships, identify those connections that require active engagement, whether with family, friends, or mentors. Clarifying what matters in each domain allows for deliberate allocation of time and energy, rather than leaving balance to chance or reaction. Integrate scheduling with intentional boundaries. Hours and energy are finite, and treating them as limitless leads to overcommitment and burnout. Block time for work, exercise, and social engagement in advance. Treat these blocks as non-negotiable commitments, just as you would a critical meeting or deadline. Boundaries prevent intrusion from lower priority tasks and provide psychological permission to fully engage in the present activity. When physical activity, family time, or focused work has a designated period, it becomes easier to honor, and guilt diminishes. Health sustains every other area. Without energy and vitality, the quality of work diminishes, and patience in relationships erodes. Design a routine that combines cardiovascular, strength, and mobility training with restorative practices like stretching, meditation, or yoga. Nutrition should prioritize consistent, whole food intake to stabilize energy levels, and hydration must be maintained throughout the day. Sleep is the foundation upon which health, focus, and emotional stability rest. Aligning these practices with work and social commitments ensures energy is sufficient to meet each domain's demands. Emotional and social health are equally crucial. Relationships act as mirrors, support systems, and sources of motivation. Schedule intentional, high-quality interactions that foster connection rather than obligation. Engage in active listening, shared activities, and meaningful conversation, ensuring that time spent strengthens bonds rather than depletes energy. Avoid multitasking during relational moments. Presence is the currency of connection. High-functioning relationships also provide feedback, encouragement, and accountability, enhancing both personal and professional growth. Work, health, and relationships interact dynamically, not independently. Excessive focus on work can strain social ties or compromise physical wellness. Overemphasis on fitness routines without structure can disrupt professional or relational obligations. Constant social engagement without boundaries can sap energy and prevent necessary personal or professional work. Balance emerges from understanding these interactions and adjusting commitments to maintain equilibrium. Regular reflection on how these domains influence each other is key to sustainable integration. Design systems to automate and simplify balance. Meal prep, fitness planning, task batching, and digital organization reduce the cognitive load of juggling priorities. Automating recurring decisions preserves energy for higher-level problem-solving and relational attention. For relationships, use reminders or shared calendars to schedule interactions consistently. For health, set recurring workouts or track nutrition. For work, establish processes that reduce redundant decisions and minimize reactive interruptions. Systems convert intention into reliable execution. Learn to recognize the signs of imbalance. Physical symptoms such as fatigue, disrupted sleep, or tension indicate neglect of health. Emotional responses such as irritability, anxiety, or withdrawal suggest relational or personal energy deficits. Productivity plateaus or errors highlight misalignment in work management. Awareness of these signals allows early corrective action, preventing small lapses from cascading into systemic dysfunction. Regular check-ins with self and others create feedback loops that maintain equilibrium. Prioritize energy over time. Scheduling alone is insufficient if energy is misaligned. Assign demanding tasks to periods of peak vitality, whether cognitive, physical, or emotional. Reserve lower energy periods for restorative activities, administrative work, or low-intensity social engagement. Understanding personal rhythms ensures that each domain receives attention when the capacity to engage fully is greatest. Energy-aware scheduling prevents depletion and allows consistent, high-quality engagement in all areas. Set clear boundaries to prevent encroachment across domains. Avoid answering work emails during designated family time. Do not sacrifice exercise or rest for minor professional obligations. Learn to say no to commitments that undermine balance. Boundaries are not rigid barriers, but flexible frameworks that protect energy, relationships, and purpose. They enable focused engagement, preventing scattered attention and reactive decision-making. Clear communication of boundaries reinforces mutual respect and creates predictable structures that sustain equilibrium. Reflect on values and alignment regularly. Balance is meaningful only when activities support deeper purpose. Reevaluate whether work challenges align with long-term goals, whether health practices sustain vitality, and whether relationships foster growth, support, and mutual fulfillment. Adjust time and energy allocation to ensure that each domain contributes to a coherent life vision rather than fragmented effort. Regular alignment fosters intentional living, reducing reactive cycles that fragment attention and reduce effectiveness. Combine domains when possible for synergy. Physical activity with relational interactions such as walking with a friend satisfies multiple needs. Collaborative professional work that strengthens social bonds integrates goals efficiently. Shared meal preparation with family can reinforce health and connection simultaneously. Strategic integration amplifies returns across domains without increasing total time investment. Synergy reduces conflict between priorities and creates compound benefits that enhance overall well-being. Practice deliberate recovery. Sustained productivity and balance require periods of rest. Recovery strategies include restorative sleep, brief meditation sessions, leisurely walks, or engaging hobbies. Recovery replenishes mental, emotional, and physical resources, preventing burnout and sustaining engagement across domains. The rhythm of work, health, and relationships is enhanced when restorative periods are consciously included. Recovery is not optional, but an integral component of balanced, high-functioning systems. Develop accountability mechanisms. Partner with friends, mentors, or colleagues to reinforce commitments in each domain. Share progress in work projects, health milestones, or relational goals. Accountability provides external validation, guidance, and encouragement, enhancing discipline and motivation. It also highlights blind spots that may go unnoticed without external perspective. Systems reinforced by social structures create durability and resilience. Adjust expectations dynamically. Balance is not static. Life events, professional demands, or health challenges necessitate temporary recalibration. Accept flexibility without guilt, while maintaining alignment with long-term objectives. The goal is proportional engagement in all domains over time rather than rigid equality at every moment. Dynamic adjustment allows resilience, preventing collapse under pressure, and fostering sustainable growth. Balance work, health, and relationships by treating them as interconnected systems rather than separate tasks. Energy, attention, and intention must be distributed deliberately, and mechanisms should be in place to monitor, reflect, and adjust. Through structured scheduling, energy-aware allocation, intentional recovery, and feedback loops, equilibrium can be maintained. The interplay of these domains shapes not only productivity, but also quality of life, resilience, and fulfillment. Sustainable achievement arises from nurturing all three pillars simultaneously, ensuring that effort compounds across work, physical vitality, and meaningful human connection. The deliberate practice of balancing these domains creates a life of sustainable impact. Work becomes more effective when health is optimized. Relationships flourish when energy and presence are available. Personal well-being reinforces capacity to contribute meaningfully to all other areas. Through careful reflection, strategic planning, and disciplined execution, the integration of work, health, and relationships transforms daily routines into systems of harmony, creating resilience, clarity, and fulfillment that extends far beyond the calendar. Number 8. Learn continuously. Apply fast. Learning continuously and applying knowledge rapidly is the engine that separates stagnant effort from exponential growth. Knowledge alone, when hoarded without action, is inert. Experience alone, when unexamined, stagnates. True productivity and advancement emerge when learning is relentless and immediately integrated into practice. The world moves fast. The individual who absorbs new insights and implements them without hesitation gains a compounding advantage. Every day presents opportunities to acquire skills, refine understanding, and adapt strategies, but the real power lies in translating that knowledge into action efficiently and intelligently. Begin by cultivating a mindset of perpetual curiosity. Treat every interaction, experience, and observation as a potential lesson. This requires humility, the willingness to recognize gaps in understanding, the openness to challenge preconceived notions, and the courage to confront discomfort inherent in unlearning outdated methods. Continuous learning is not casual or passive. It demands deliberate attention and active engagement. It involves questioning assumptions, synthesizing information, and connecting disparate ideas to form coherent, applicable insight. Identify high-leverage areas for learning. Not all knowledge yields equal return. Some concepts and skills produce outsized impact in your professional and personal life. Focus on domains that accelerate your primary objectives. Prioritize learning that directly enhances problem-solving ability, efficiency, creativity, or strategic thinking. By targeting high-impact areas, the investment of time and cognitive energy compounds rapidly, providing tangible results sooner. Low-value information, while occasionally enriching, should not dominate limited attention resources. Adopt structured systems for capturing knowledge. Ideas and insights are easily forgotten if not documented and organized. Maintain a repository of information through notes, summaries, or digital tools that allow quick retrieval and review. Categorize learnings by relevance, application, or urgency to ensure that knowledge is actionable rather than passive. A structured system prevents mental overload and ensures that learning flows seamlessly into implementation rather than dissipating into abstraction. Engage actively with information. Passive reading, listening, or observing is insufficient. Interrogate content critically. Ask how it applies to current challenges, whether it aligns with objectives, and what modifications are necessary to fit personal context. Summarization, paraphrasing, or teaching others transforms information into internalized understanding. The brain consolidates knowledge more effectively when actively manipulated, increasing retention and facilitating rapid application. Apply knowledge immediately, even imperfectly. Implementation reinforces learning and reveals gaps in understanding that can only be discovered through action. Waiting for perfect conditions or complete comprehension delays growth. Rapid application enables iterative refinement. Initial attempts provide feedback, highlighting what works, what fails, and what requires adaptation. Action accelerates mastery far faster than extended passive study, creating a feedback loop in which learning and execution continually inform one another. Break down complex concepts into actionable steps. Learning often appears abstract until distilled into tasks that can be executed. Identify the smallest units of action that embody the knowledge acquired. These micro-actions create a bridge between understanding and practical application. Stepwise implementation prevents overwhelm, increases confidence, and sustains momentum. Complexity is conquered not by grand leaps, but by deliberate incremental action informed by insight. Experiment boldly while managing risk. Learning is amplified when theory is tested against reality. Treat experimentation as controlled trials. Hypothesize, implement, observe outcomes, and adjust. Mistakes are not failures, but data points guiding refinement. Managing risk involves setting boundaries, defining acceptable margins for error, and protecting essential resources while still allowing freedom to innovate. Iterative experimentation transforms uncertainty into learning opportunities, accelerating competence and strategic adaptability. Leverage feedback systematically. Feedback is the engine that transforms application into mastery. Seek observations from peers, mentors, or data-driven metrics to understand performance and impact. Use feedback to correct errors, refine methods, and enhance decision-making. The faster feedback is integrated, the quicker learning translates into effective action. Without feedback, even diligent application can drift into inefficiency, reducing the benefit of accumulated knowledge. Integrate cross-disciplinary insights. Learning should not be siloed. Concepts from unrelated fields often yield innovative solutions when applied creatively. Patterns, strategies, and principles from diverse domains enrich problem-solving ability and accelerate adaptability. Cross-pollination fosters a mental flexibility that allows for faster, more effective application of knowledge under varying circumstances. The individual who synthesizes broadly learns not only faster, but also with greater depth and versatility. Prioritize learning in high-focus periods. Energy and attention amplify comprehension and retention. Allocate time for study and practice when mental acuity is highest. Combine this with strategic breaks to prevent cognitive fatigue, ensuring that new information is absorbed effectively. Focused engagement during optimal energy periods allows for deeper processing and enhances the speed and quality of subsequent application. Refine systems continuously. Learning and application are enhanced when organized routines facilitate seamless transitions from knowledge acquisition to execution. Standardized processes for reviewing insights, tracking experiments, recording outcomes, and iterating systems reduce friction, conserve cognitive resources, and ensure that learning becomes habitual rather than sporadic. The cumulative effect of optimized systems magnifies the impact of continuous learning over time. Measure progress and adjust goals. Learning without assessment risks misalignment or wasted effort. Establish clear metrics for skill acquisition, application outcomes, and improvement over time. Review these indicators regularly, adjusting learning priorities and application strategies accordingly. Measurement transforms intuition into data, enabling informed decision-making and efficient use of energy and time. Maintain discipline in applying knowledge consistently. Sporadic application limits the compounding effect of learning. Embed habits that ensure regular execution of newly acquired skills or concepts, whether through scheduled practice, project implementation, or incremental integration into daily routines. Disciplined application transforms potential into tangible competence. Repetition consolidates skill, deepens understanding, and accelerates mastery. Balance absorption with action to avoid analysis paralysis. Continuous learning can become a trap if reflection overshadows execution. Establish boundaries for information intake, committing to applying acquired insights within a defined time frame. Action converts knowledge into results, and results generate further insight, maintaining the dynamic cycle of growth. Discipline ensures that learning is purposeful and not merely accumulative. Leverage mentorship and collaborative learning. Engaging with others who have experience accelerates comprehension and application. Observing methods, receiving guidance, and exchanging ideas compress the learning curve. Collaboration provides immediate feedback, practical examples, and alternative perspectives that inform faster, more effective implementation. Learning in isolation is slower and risks narrow, untested assumptions. Prioritize reflection on outcomes. After applying new knowledge, analyze results to extract lessons, understand cause and effect, and identify opportunities for refinement. Reflection ensures that insights become embedded in decision-making frameworks, rather than dissipating as isolated experiences. Iterative reflection converts each application into a multiplier for future performance. Adopt a growth-oriented identity. The individual who identifies as a learner and doer naturally seeks improvement and rapid integration of knowledge. This identity reinforces discipline, curiosity, and resilience. Self-conception, as someone who acts on knowledge, accelerates the habit of continuous learning and execution, making the process instinctive rather than forced. By learning continuously and applying knowledge fast, progress compounds. Each insight integrated into practice enhances effectiveness, expands capability, and builds confidence. The cycle of acquisition, implementation, feedback, and refinement becomes self-reinforcing, producing accelerated mastery in all domains. A life structured around deliberate, rapid learning transforms challenges into opportunities, stagnation into growth, and potential into measurable achievement. Knowledge without application is inert. Application without learning is shallow. When combined, they create unstoppable momentum, empowering individuals to navigate complexity, seize opportunity, and achieve excellence consistently. Number 9. Rest strategically. Sustain momentum. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. It is the foundation upon which sustainable momentum is built. Many individuals confuse busyness with progress, pushing relentlessly through tasks, meetings, and obligations without pause. This approach may yield short-term results, but inevitably leads to diminishing returns, mental fatigue, physical exhaustion, and emotional burnout. Strategic rest, however, preserves energy, restores clarity, and enhances performance over time. It is an active, intentional practice designed to maximize long-term output rather than a passive surrender to fatigue. Understanding rest as a tool, not a luxury, transforms the way energy, focus, and resilience are managed daily. Start by recognizing the signs that rest is required. Physical tension, irritability, difficulty concentrating, or diminished creativity are indicators that energy reserves are depleted. Ignoring these signals not only reduces the quality of work, but also prolongs recovery periods. Strategic rest involves listening to the body and mind, acknowledging limits without judgment, and responding deliberately. By honoring these signals proactively, productivity can be sustained rather than merely recovered from after collapse. Prioritize sleep as the core pillar of rest. Adequate high-quality sleep is non-negotiable for cognitive function, emotional regulation, and physical performance. Establish consistent sleep and wake times to synchronize circadian rhythms, which enhances alertness and efficiency during waking hours. Develop pre-sleep routines that promote relaxation, dim lighting, minimize screen exposure, and calming practices such as reading or meditation. Sleep is not downtime, it is active restoration, consolidating memory, repairing tissues, and preparing the brain and body for sustained high performance. Incorporate micro breaks during periods of intense work. Extended focus without interruption leads to cognitive fatigue and declining decision quality. Brief pauses, standing, stretching, deep breathing, or walking, restore attentional capacity, allowing sharper engagement upon return. These micro rest intervals act as a reset button, maintaining energy and focus throughout the day. By embedding small restorative moments within work blocks, momentum is preserved without sacrificing output or discipline. Schedule longer, restorative intervals strategically. Beyond daily micro breaks, plan periods dedicated entirely to recovery and rejuvenation. These may include leisure activities, exercise, meditation, creative pursuits, or time in nature. The objective is to disengage from performance pressures while stimulating renewal in mind, body, and spirit. Purposeful scheduling ensures that restorative intervals are not accidental or neglected, but are embedded as integral components of sustained productivity. Use mental rest to enhance creativity and problem solving. The brain requires downtime to process complex information, synthesize insights, and generate innovative ideas. Passive rest, such as daydreaming, walking, or engaging in gentle hobbies, activates neural pathways associated with reflection and imagination. Interrupting this natural processing with constant task engagement diminishes learning, reduces cognitive flexibility, and limits the ability to approach challenges strategically. Deliberate mental rest accelerates insight and clarity when work resumes. Physical movement supports restorative processes. Exercise stimulates circulation, oxygenates the brain, and releases neurotransmitters that reduce stress while enhancing energy. Alternating between intense work and moderate physical activity prevents prolonged sedentary strain, maintains stamina, and promotes recovery. Even short sessions of mobility, stretching, or light cardio can amplify energy levels, counteracting the physical toll of focused work and supporting sustained engagement. Implement emotional restoration intentionally. Stress, frustration, or anxiety can accumulate quietly, depleting willpower and reducing resilience. Engage in activities that replenish emotional energy, connecting with loved ones, practicing gratitude, journaling, or engaging in mindful reflection. Emotional recovery reinforces mental focus and decision-making, ensuring that engagement in work or personal commitments remains effective rather than reactive. Sustainable momentum requires a healthy emotional foundation, not merely physical stamina. Create boundaries to protect restorative periods. Unplanned interruptions, reactive obligations, or digital distractions during rest erode its restorative power. Silence notifications, set clear expectations with colleagues or family, and designate environments conducive to recovery. Protecting rest is an act of strategic foresight. By investing in restoration, higher performance, and consistent momentum are enabled when attention returns to action. Sequence work and rest strategically to maintain rhythm. Identify peak energy periods and allocate demanding tasks to these windows. Conversely, schedule restorative periods when mental or physical capacity naturally dips. Aligning task intensity with natural energy rhythms maximizes effectiveness and prevents cumulative fatigue. The interplay between exertion and recovery ensures that focus and output remain high without unsustainable strain. Integrate reflection into rest. Even during restorative periods, consider brief contemplation or review of progress. Reflection consolidates learning, identifies areas for refinement, and clarifies priorities without inducing stress. By incorporating thoughtful observation into rest, recovery doubles as a mechanism for insight, guiding more efficient action when engagement resumes. Leverage environmental cues for rest. Spaces, lighting, sounds, and ergonomics influence the quality of recovery. Quiet, comfortable, and organized environments support deep restoration. Access to nature, fresh air, or aesthetically calming surroundings amplifies restorative effects. Design environments to facilitate disengagement from stressors while supporting renewal of energy and attention. Embrace active rest techniques. Rest does not mean inactivity. It can involve movement, creativity, or mindful engagement that replenishes energy. Activities such as walking, yoga, light hobbies, or reflective journaling restore focus and mental clarity while keeping the body and mind gently engaged. Active rest prevents stagnation and enhances the capacity to re-engage fully when work resumes. Balance intensity and recovery within work cycles. Continuous high-effort periods without interspersed rest degrade output over time. The principle of oscillation, alternating periods of concentrated effort with recovery, ensures sustainable performance. Intense focus is amplified, not diminished, by strategically timed rest. Recognizing that productivity is cumulative over time rather than solely measured in immediate output reinforces the importance of restoration. Track the effectiveness of rest. Monitor sleep quality, mood, focus, and energy to evaluate whether restorative practices are producing measurable benefits. Adjust routines based on observation to maximize recovery potential. Without measurement, rest may be misaligned with actual needs, reducing its impact on momentum. Regular assessment ensures that restoration strategies evolve alongside workload, energy demands, and life circumstances. Integrate restorative practices with long-term goals. Rest should not be treated as a reactive response to exhaustion, but as a proactive enabler of performance and achievement. Schedule restorative periods around high-priority initiatives to ensure that energy is available when most required. Viewing rest as strategic investment aligns short-term recovery with long-term accomplishment, converting downtime into an accelerant for sustained progress. Develop rituals around rest to reinforce consistency. Consistent cues, such as a wind-down routine before sleep, meditation before high-intensity work, or dedicated reflective walks, signal to the body and mind that restoration is expected and legitimate. Ritualized rest reduces friction, increases adherence, and ensures that recovery becomes habitual rather than occasional. Strategic rest also enhances resilience. By deliberately replenishing energy, the mind and body are better equipped to handle stress, unexpected challenges, and high-demand periods. Rest acts as a buffer, absorbing the shocks of intensive effort and maintaining performance under pressure. Momentum is not merely about continuous action. It is about sustained capacity to act consistently and effectively over time. Combine rest with learning and reflection. Periods of restoration provide opportunity for incubation, allowing recently acquired knowledge, insights, and experiences to consolidate. Ideas can percolate subconsciously, leading to improved problem-solving, creativity, and decision-making. The mind, when rested strategically, integrates information faster and applies it more effectively when engagement resumes. By resting strategically, momentum becomes sustainable. Productivity is amplified, not through relentless effort, but through intelligent cycles of work and recovery. Energy is preserved, clarity is enhanced, and resilience strengthened. Each period of deliberate rest is an investment in future performance, ensuring that focus, creativity, and output remain high. Rest is not passive. It is an essential mechanism for sustaining high-functioning systems, allowing consistent action to compound over time, and creating a life where progress is enduring, deliberate, and Number 10. Align actions with purpose. Purpose is the compass that transforms motion into meaningful progress. Action without alignment drifts aimlessly, expending energy without producing significance. Every task, decision, and commitment consumes time and cognitive resources, and when these resources are not directed toward a clear purpose, effort dissipates. Aligning actions with purpose is not a philosophical abstraction. It is a practical framework that guides focus, energy, and intention toward outcomes that matter most. Purpose gives clarity to choices, resilience to challenges, and motivation that sustains effort even when tasks are arduous or circumstances uncertain. Begin by defining purpose with precision. Purpose is not a vague aspiration or fleeting desire. It is a deeply considered statement of why you do what you do. It is rooted in values, long-term goals, and the impact you seek to create. Take time to reflect on what is non-negotiable, what principles anchor your life, and what contributions you want to leave behind. A clearly articulated purpose serves as a reference point against which every action can be evaluated, ensuring alignment between daily behavior and overarching objectives. Break purpose into actionable priorities. Once purpose is defined, translate it into tangible goals and activities. Identify the high-leverage actions that directly advance your vision. Not all work is equal. Some tasks have minimal impact, while others compound significantly toward long-term objectives. By mapping daily, weekly, and monthly activities to purpose-driven outcomes, effort becomes targeted, deliberate, and strategic. Prioritization ensures that energy is invested where it matters most, rather than dissipated on distractions or low-value tasks. Evaluate each action through the lens of purpose. Before committing to tasks, ask, does this move me closer to meaningful outcomes? Does it honor my values and long-term goals? Purpose-aligned action requires conscious selection, not automatic response to external pressures or immediate gratification. Decisions filtered through this lens create consistency, coherence, and momentum toward objectives that matter, rather than sporadic activity that produces superficial results. Integrate purpose into habit formation. Habits are the architecture of daily behavior, and their alignment with purpose ensures that consistent effort compounds into meaningful progress. Design routines, rituals, and systems that reinforce priority actions automatically. Habits anchored in purpose reduce reliance on fleeting motivation, increase adherence, and embed alignment into the fabric of daily life. Over time, purposeful habits transform effort into sustained achievement with minimal conscious friction. Reflect regularly to maintain alignment. Purpose is not static. As circumstances, knowledge, and priorities evolve, periodic reflection ensures continued coherence between actions and objectives. Weekly or monthly reviews provide the opportunity to assess whether behaviors are consistent with intended direction. Adjustments made in response to reflection prevent drift and reinforce intentionality, ensuring that every action remains a deliberate step toward meaningful outcomes. Harness the motivational power of purpose. Alignment between action and meaning creates intrinsic drive that sustains effort beyond external rewards or recognition. Tasks that might otherwise feel tedious gain significance when linked to larger objectives. Purpose transforms discipline from a burden into a vehicle for fulfillment, allowing sustained focus and perseverance even under challenge. Motivation derived from internal clarity is more durable and resilient than extrinsic incentives, which fluctuate with circumstance. Use purpose as a filter for opportunities. Not every demand, invitation, or project is worth pursuing. Evaluate options based on alignment with long-term goals and values. Purpose acts as a decision-making framework, simplifying choices and reducing wasted effort. Opportunities that do not reinforce central objectives are deferred, delegated, or eliminated, freeing energy for the most impactful work. The clarity that purpose provides enables strategic selectivity, enhancing productivity and focus. Communicate purpose clearly to others. Alignment is reinforced when commitments, expectations, and collaboration are transparent. Sharing purpose with colleagues, family, or teams creates accountability and ensures that joint efforts are cohesive. It reduces conflict, enhances coordination, and maximizes collective impact. When others understand the underlying rationale for actions, cooperation becomes easier, and energy is directed efficiently toward shared objectives. Integrate reflection with action. Purpose-driven behavior is not abstract contemplation. It is measured by execution. After completing tasks, assess whether outcomes reflect intended purpose. Did actions produce meaningful results? Were decisions congruent with core values? Continuous calibration between reflection and execution ensures that actions remain aligned over time, reinforcing both effectiveness and integrity. Eliminate low-impact activities systematically. Misaligned actions are energy drains. Identify recurring tasks, obligations, or routines that contribute little to desired outcomes, and remove or delegate them. Minimizing non-essential activities preserves attention for high-value, purpose-aligned work. This disciplined pruning prevents fragmentation of focus and enhances the clarity and power of productive effort. Design environments to support purpose-driven action. Physical and digital spaces influence behavior significantly. Organize spaces to facilitate priority work, remove distractions, and provide cues that reinforce alignment. When surroundings are consistent with intentions, the brain can focus on execution rather than constant negotiation of competing demands. Environment becomes a silent enabler of purpose, shaping behavior subtly, yet powerfully. Embrace challenges as tests of alignment. Obstacles reveal whether actions are genuinely in service of purpose or merely habitual effort. Difficult tasks and resistance provide opportunities to clarify values, refine priorities, and recommit to meaningful objectives. Purpose-driven individuals view challenges as feedback, not deterrence, integrating lessons learned to enhance future alignment. Leverage long-term perspective in decision-making. Purpose functions as a stabilizing anchor in the face of short-term distractions, setbacks, or temptations. Actions that may be uncomfortable or inconvenient in the moment are maintained because they serve enduring objectives. Viewing effort through the lens of long-term impact cultivates patience, resilience, and strategic consistency, ensuring that energy is deployed effectively across time. Balance adaptability with consistency. Purpose provides direction but does not demand rigidity. Adjust methods, tactics, or processes as circumstances evolve, but preserve alignment with core principles and objectives. Flexibility allows responsiveness without sacrificing coherence, enabling growth and learning while maintaining a stable trajectory toward meaningful outcomes. Reinforce alignment through measurable goals. Establish metrics and indicators that track whether actions produce desired impact. Tangible benchmarks allow objective assessment of alignment and progress, providing feedback to refine strategies and maintain focus. Quantifiable measures convert abstract purpose into actionable and trackable performance, sustaining clarity and momentum. Anchor daily decisions to ultimate purpose. Every choice, from minor routines to major projects, is an opportunity to reinforce alignment. Purpose is maintained not only through monumental actions, but through consistent, cumulative decisions that reflect priorities and values. Over time, the aggregation of these choices compounds into measurable progress toward meaningful life objectives. Purpose-driven alignment transforms life into a coherent, integrated system where energy, focus, and effort produce significance rather than mere busyness. Actions become intentional, decisions guided, and outcomes meaningful. By defining clear purpose, translating it into priorities, reflecting consistently, and executing deliberately, each day contributes toward a larger vision. Alignment between action and purpose amplifies impact, fosters resilience, and cultivates fulfillment. It ensures that effort is not only effective, but enduring, allowing momentum to compound in service of what matters most. When actions are tethered to purpose, productivity transcends mechanical accomplishment, becoming a life of intentional achievement, meaningful contribution, and sustained excellence.